The views and opinions expressed on this program do not reflect the company, owners, management, staff, clients, or partners.
It's Monday, the 21st day of March, 2022. Welcome to the Daily Hour, brought to you by Medical House One Communications and Lindos. I'm Jamal Hartman. She is Sherry Vanderpool, and Leanna Lambert will be with us in a bit to bring you the latest in her news break, brought to you by People's Pharmacy. Sherry, how was your weekend?
It was good. It was really good. I had a great Friday. I had a wonderful Saturday, and yesterday was productive. And this morning was productive. Like, just like feel the energy, Jamal.
Yeah. No. I love, you know me. I love a little good energy, folks. I love good energy. So this means we're about to have a great week, right, Sherry?
Yes.
Daily
absolutely.
play, you got it all covered, right? Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. She's got everything covered, folks. I'm not too confident about her, but it's nothing like a great, productive weekend, and I'm glad you had one. My weekends are usually productive as of late. I'm not sure necessarily great, but I think the great thing is coming back on Mondays and seeing all of your beautiful faces, even though I can't see them, but you get what I'm saying.
You think you're talking about me then?
Yeah, absolutely. You and Liana.
Exactly.
Good save. I'm going on like a baseball player, season starting soon, saving them out there.
Without Freddie Freeman.
We're not going to go there today. We're not going to
sorry. My bad.
Yeah, anyway, folks, good morning, everyone, and thanks for making us part of your daily routine. A good one to begin the week, as Denton Williams, the chief executive of the regulatory authority, is stopping by, and I'm sure you all have a lot of questions. You've been talking a lot about things like electricity and pricing and stuff like that. So gas and things that are happening. So yeah, it's a good time for Mr. Williams to come by. And if you have any questions, you know what to do. Just share as many as possible, and we will do our best to ask them on your behalf. The daily play is a Who Said It.
Right.
So Sherry got last week. I believe it was the late Rosa Parks, and she got last week. So it should be interesting.
Yeah.
But Sherry, we have a conversation this morning. We have a very controversial conversation this morning. And I just want to bring up the timeline so the audience can see what exactly we're talking about. But I'm going to ask the question first.
Okay.
What's the solution to what's the solution to transgender athletes in sports? So that's your question. What's the solution to transgender athletes in sports? Well, let's bring this up because there's been some controversy in the United States where here's the timeline according to swimmingworldmagazine.com and written by David Reeder. So last Thursday, the University of Pennsylvania's Leah Thomas captured the NCAA title in the 500-yard freestyle, becoming the first transgender athlete to capture an individual national title in swimming. Thomas swam a time of 4:33.24 to beat runner-up Emma Wyan of Virginia by 2 seconds, and Thomas will again be favored for Friday's 200, which I believe she may have finished 8th last in. But here's a timeline. Like, the attention of Leah Thomas was pretty much at its peak last week because of the transgender competing against women. So in 2017 and 2019, Thomas competed for the University of Pennsylvania as a male prior to transition. 2019 to 2020, Thomas began transitioning and undergoing hormone therapy, still competing for the Penn men's team in a few meets, not including the Ivy League championships. 2021, the Ivy League cancels its athletics for the school year. During that time, Thomas continued to undergo hormone therapy, allowing her to become eligible to compete in women's events under NCAA rules. December 3rd through 5th, 2021, Thomas swims the fastest times in the nation in the 200 and 500 at the Zippy Invitational. Late December 2021, Penn University parents write letters to the school and to the NCAA protesting Thomas's participation on the women's team. December 24, 2021, USA swim official Cynthia Millen resigns in protest of Thomas competing, even though Thomas was not competing in USA swimming sanctioned events. Late December 21, early January 22, U.S. Olympians began speaking out on the situation. 2021 Olympian Erica Brown was against allowing transgender females to compete against biological males, whilst 2016 Olympian Jacob Pebley urged considerations of mental health and expressing support for Thomas. January 8, 2022, and I'm going, folks, we have to go through all this. I'm sorry. Thomas wins 2 individual events in her home final meet at Penn. January 15, 2022, the American Swim Coaches Association urges governing bodies to establish new transgender policies in support of fairness. January 19, 2022, the NCAA introduces a new transgender participation policy, placing the onus on USA Swimming and FINA to determine regulations for swimming. January 20th, USA Swimming releases a statement announcing NGB was working with FINA to develop new uniform transgender policies. January 22nd, Thomas posts 2 individual victories in Penn State's dual meet at Harvard. January 25th, Brooke Ford, one of Thomas' primary competitors for the national title in the 500 free, says she will not have a problem racing against Thomas at the NCAAs. February 7th, the Ivy League confirms that Thomas will be eligible to compete at the conference championship meet. February 10th, the NCAA announces that it will not adopt USA swimming standards for testosterone levels for transgender athletes at the NCAA championships. February 17th to 19th, Thomas wins the 500 freestyle, 200 freestyle, 100 freestyle at the Ivy League championships. March 1st, the psych sheet for the NCAA championship is released, and Thomas is listed as the first seed in 2 events. March 3rd, Thomas gives rare public comments and feature story for Sports Illustrated. And March 17th, Thomas wins the NCAA title in 500 freestyle. Protesters, both opposed to and supporting Thomas' participation, gather outside the Macaulay Aquatic Center. That was a lot.
It was.
A lot. So the question of the morning: what's the solution to transgender athletes in sport? Is this fair? Is this fair? Now, I could jump to the story where Leah Thomas did lose the final race of her college career, and also Leah Thomas broke no records in the NCAA swimming as a woman. Right? But is this fair? What's the solution to transgender athletes in sports? Because I think it's a very thin line.
Very.
It's a line because in one breath, you've got people who they don't want to discriminate, but they're supporting what some feel is an unfair situation, right? And I don't think that by trying to liberate, the idea or end goal is to, or should be, to put people in an unfair situation or give people an unfair advantage. Now, I'm no scientist. I know not how any of this works. But from a layman's perspective, it does not seem fair.
And let me preference, whatever anybody's choice is, and that's their choice. I'm going to preference by saying that that's not what this conversation is about. However, I don't know. It's a sticky line, Jamal, when you think about you're transitioning from male to female, and for you, what you feel inside is that you're female. However, there is still some, and like you said, I'm not a scientist either. I feel some male stuff or male testosterone, some male hormones or male advancements um, that could push you forward into winning a situation or winning a meet that normally a woman may win. Am I saying that correctly? Because I feel like, like I
I
said,
think,
it's a fine line. It's just a fine line
so what's your solution to it then?
for there to be a transgender category.
I think that honestly, I think that probably would be the consensus today. Bermuda Girl says the same, create their own categories. Traveling Trotty says have their own category, because I think the idea of everything was representation. And if I'm not quite sure this is representation. Now,
Yeah.
you know, it's like taking me, right? And I'm not going to put me because I'm very good at basketball, but taking the worst basketball player in the NBA and putting them in the WNBA and they dominate. Would that be fair? Would that be? I'm not saying it's likely to happen, but would that be fair to the women already in that sport? It's such a thin line. Bermuda Girl says NCAA now have changed the rules to 3 years of hormone therapy. Yeah,
Oh.
it's much more to this story, folks. It's a lot more. But on the surface, the question is, what's the solution to transgender athletes in sports? Sam Cat plays for you, Sherry.
Don't allow it. Why? Because genetically, a man is always a man, so his makeup will naturally be more robust than a woman. This is getting out of hand, and it's an insult to men and women, period. And that's what I was not going to necessarily say, but at the end of the day, yes, your hormones change, but your hands are still bigger, your legs are still longer, your muscle composition is still what it is. Although your hormones may be different, your body makeup is still what it is. It doesn't shrink your muscles, doesn't shrink your hands, and so forth. So even in a swimming competition, you already have length working for you because you're a male. So I
Sam Cat Play says, what can be fair about it? You disqualify for doping in sports. So what's so different than this? There's a whole slew of drugs needed for changing your genetics, so it should not be allowed. Bermuda Girl says, as a male swimmer, she was ranked as 400. As a female swimmer, she's ranked as #1. It's ridiculous. I did see a meme. I didn't know how true that was, so I didn't repeat it. Bermuda Girl and Traveling Trotty for you, Sherry.
her lung capacity alone has an advantage. What about women who had too much testosterone and people wanting to not allow them to run in track and field, and they were not transitioning, and it was an issue?
Wasn't that Castamaya? I think. Yeah, I don't remember again Castamaya, but Rashida Godwin says, Sherry, you're saying what you're saying is if LeBron James became transgender and was able to play on a women's team, is that fair? I don't even think, I think using LeBron James, I mean, he's the greatest in the game right now. I don't think that's fair. Take the worst NBA player. I think that's probably a better example, because if true that Thomas was ranked 400 and then became #1, well, take the NBA player ranked the lowest and put them in the WNBA. Would it be fair? I think that's the fair comparison, but.
And to play on them is probably not. And I'm gonna say again, men are made up differently, just their body composition. And when you transition, you're looking at the hormones. So if he was the worst NBA player and he went into women's basketball, would he not have more height? Possibly, and just more body than anything in regards to his hormones, or her hormones. And that's where it gets tricky too,
Larry Marshall says hormone therapy only suppressed the hormones. No one talks about the other physical benefits from being born biologically male. There needs to be a separate category to protect the purity of women's sports. And I think everyone, again, I think that's the consensus. I think that's the consensus. I don't think anyone is here hating or disliking or just making noise to make noise. I think what we're calling for is fairness, right? And this is why I say, I don't like the word equality. I don't like the
Mhm.
word equality, because when it comes to equality, these are the kind of things that we
Yeah.
begin talking about. Equity, maybe equity, it's a plain, it's all even. Equity would be this Leah Thomas being in a transgender category. Equality would be putting Leah Thomas in the women's category. So I think this is where we need to be very careful about language and words, and we need to be careful about what we really want.
Right.
How far we're willing to go, because I thought the movement was about representation. If it's about
Mhm.
representation, to quote Larry, you don't want to really lose the purity of the women's sport. So I can completely understand, though I'm not a woman, I get what they're saying in terms of, their unhappiness with this, you know.
Well, and on top of that, Jamal, we just had a conversation, or I believe you and Larry had a conversation about women's sports, just period. Not being able to even getting the representation, getting the type of notoriety, and just all of those kind of things that come along with it. And it's not to say, again, that transgenders can't do what they feel they need to do for themselves, but we should have a separate category that features and puts everyone up against each other on equal playing field.
Indeed, Shikarina.
One day there may be enough transgender athletes for a separate category, but for now, if you're transitioning, perhaps not competing is the sacrifice you take on when you decide to transition.
Mm.
That's
Well,
interesting,
you
Shika.
know what, Shika? Many who have fought different battles and brought about change that we experience today have had to make the ultimate sacrifice. And to me, that's not a tough ask if you believe in your cause.
Mm-hmm.
Tanya Cheeseman says, I agree that a separate category should be established. However, you still run the risk of being accused of discrimination. Well,
Hmm.
there are legal forms of discrimination. And to me, some of them in the best interests of the greater good. What do I mean by that? So let's say Sherry and I own a nursery, right? We own a nursery, a daycare. And someone comes to apply for a job at our daycare. Well, the person who comes to apply for a job at our daycare has had abuse allegations against children. It's within law that we can discriminate against this person not based on their criminal record, but based on the crime that they were accused of and convicted of. So we can say, no, we cannot put you in a space where our children may be endangered. That's
Right.
legal discrimination. My point is, to me, sometimes discrimination is made in the best interest of the greater good. I'm not excusing discrimination that actually harms people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm speaking of discrimination that actually protects people and protects fairness and equity that we're talking about. But I take your point, Tanya Cheeseman. Richard Olson says situations like this ruin the event. Ruin the event.
Mm.
Folks, what's the solution to transgender athletes in sports? What is the solution? Now, again, I'm not privy to this, but I'm going to say, as a person who reads the news pretty often, I know. It would bring my blood pressure down if I didn't, but I know. But as a person who is very much aware, I don't think Bermuda has experienced this yet. But you know what they say, and I say it often. America catches a cold, and Bermuda coughs or sneezes, or America coughs or sneezes, and Bermuda catches a cold. You know what I mean. You get me. You know I'm not good with this stuff, right? But you get what I'm saying. So what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying is conversations like this are important before we get to that space.
Yeah,
They're extremely
definitely.
important. Ellen K. Horton for you, Sherry.
Look at the situation with Samya?
I forgot her full name, but Samina.
Okay.
I say Samina.
She is not allowed to compete in the body in which she was born. And the reason because of that, she has both chromosomes, or she has both hormones of some sort.
Somebody answer that for us, because I don't know the answer. Larry Marshall just says sports is separated by gender. Once that is muddy, then you may as well have one big division. And if there was one big division, women, ladies, take no offense for what I'm about to say, but we already see how these things go. It's about money
Yeah.
for those at the top. And if there were one gender, one division, I guarantee you representation will go out the door.
That would
It
be
would go
crazy.
out the door. I guarantee you. So this is a situation that I think we need to consider for so many reasons. For so many reasons. At the end of the day, I'm just going to say I don't think it's right. I think it's completely wrong. I think we're treading very dangerously. And I think people need to relieve themselves of the emotions and just think.
You're right.
You know how people always say common sense, common sense? I don't necessarily agree like that. I don't want to be one of the common folks with the sense that I see. But anyway, that's not the story. It's not about me. Not about me. We have to think deeper than our own feelings and emotions on this.
Yeah, I agree with you. Take the emotion out.
Yeah. Kelly KM Smith says, solution, make a separate category for them. Cherie, deal sharing.
I will probably get this wrong, but since sex is different from gender, with sex being the biological construct and gender being a social construct, can it be separated by sex instead?
You know,
that was deep.
Again, you're going on those hormone things I don't know about, Cherie. You know, it's not my space to answer, but it's a valid question, a good question. And maybe one of our science people in the audience can assist with that. James Burt says, not letting transgender or intersex people compete at the highest levels feels like discrimination that hurts people. And fair point, James, but letting them compete at the highest levels feels like discrimination that hurts people too. So you have different perspectives on that. Not letting them, you say hurts people. I say letting them hurts people. At the end of the day, if I want to compete in a woman's sport and I get told no, despite me being slow enough not to compete in men's, but fast enough to compete in a woman's sport, I can say my feelings are hurt. It hurts me. You get what I'm saying? Like it's no winner in this if it's not fair.
No, agreed, Jamal. You know, we don't agree on many things, but I agree with you on this. And I think what everyone's solution is have a separate category that meets all of their needs, and allowing, as Larry said, keeping the purity in women's sports and men's, for that fact.
Yeah, Richard Olson says, women have fought hard for equality in sport, and having a third category makes no sense except for the limited participants and undermines the women's movement. Sam Cat Place, she says, no right-thinking person should agree. Where does it end? Well, Sam, honestly, I think the greatness of us, especially all of us who have these conversations on a daily basis, is our different perspectives. And through them, hopefully we can learn, and hopefully we can get to a space where we have a community that focuses more on fairness rather than people's feelings. That's my hope. Let's bring Leanna into the conversation. We have a guest coming up. Mr. Denton Williams from the Regulatory Authority is joining us. Important conversation. I know a lot of people have questions about the price of electricity and gas and stuff like that. Well, he is the man, and he will be discussing some of the updates and changes in that sector. But without further ado, let's bring in Leanna, see what she's got for us. I wonder if she has an opinion on this. Good morning, Lisa. How are you?
Good morning. Good morning. And I am feeling great. Had a good weekend. It was restful, and I'm feeling ready for the upcoming week.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I gotta ask you. Did you do any work on the weekend?
I did no work this weekend, which was great, but I did do a 3-mile walk, which was like lovely. The weather was so amazing on the island this weekend, and I definitely took advantage to just sit outside and enjoy the fresh air yesterday. Like I said, I went for a 3-mile walk in the morning. Like, I just relaxed this weekend, and it was
no, you all don't know. Like, Leanna literally works every weekend, and so it's nice to hear her. I honestly thought you were gonna say no, I had to work, but it's
not this weekend.
Okay, all right, because I was looking for my applause. Like, I never exercise. And I'm on day 2.
It was work.
I'm on day 2.
My apologies, Sister Sherry.
There you go. That's right. Praise Sherry.
Lee, you want in on this convo or straight
Yeah,
to the
because
news?
this has been a conversation that's been hot over the weekend at the dinner table, in just regular social circles. And while there's been a lot of interesting comments, I think the consensus of a lot of my friends and family over this weekend that I heard was that a separate category should be created. And I agree with Larry in keeping the purity of those. I think Cherie was trying to differentiate, sex and gender being a social and a biological. And I think that's absolutely, it's fair. It's
Mhm.
fair when you're getting down into the physics and the biological
Yeah.
sense of a woman and her natural creation, and a man and his natural capabilities and creation as well. And then, we have another category that is a mixture of those chromosomes and testosterone and all of that type of stuff. And I just feel as if, having three categories, in my opinion, doesn't discriminate, because now those persons are, equal in their own category.
Corey.
It's equity, and thank you, Lee. I love when she jumps in, folks. You know that. But no, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. We're a bit behind. Let's get to the news break, and then don't forget we have Denton Williams in the back waiting to come on and just educate us about the regulatory authority and what's going on as far as there's electricity. Some updates, folks. I saw my Belco bill last week, and yeah, I'm looking for a fifth job. Over to you, Lee.
Thanks, Jamal and Sherry, and good morning and happy Monday to everyone that's tuned in with us today. I hope everyone is having a great start to this gloomy and rainy start to the day. I'm Leanna Lambert, and it's time for the Daily Hour News Break, brought to you by People's Pharmacy. Well, in today's top stories, trained mental health professionals and support workers have come together to open a new facility geared at helping tackle the island's mental health challenges. Now, Dignity House facility located in Pembroke officially opened its doors with dignitaries and community members over the weekend. The facility will provide a residential mental health facility in Bermuda dedicated to helping homelessness and vulnerable adults reintegrate into society. Now, facility organizers say that clients will spend approximately 6.5 months in the facility, relearning new skills and techniques, building self-esteem, gaining confidence, engaging in a variety of workshops, medical reviews, and counseling sessions. Facility organizers' hopes are that this structural approach will reunite families, provide hope, and restore the fabric of society. In other news, for those who have been looking for their packages, you'll probably be happy to know that the online shopping and shipping service that was set up by the Bermuda Post Office is back in action after it was hacked in a ransomware incident. Now, the My Bermuda Post website, which is a joint venture with Florida-based shippers My US, had been down for a week after it was targeted by fraudsters. But the service sent an email to customers last Wednesday to announce that the site was up and running again. An earlier email to customers from My Bermuda Post, which operates through the Bermuda Post Office, said that packages had been delayed by the attack. Now, My US added that payment details had not been compromised and that police and computer experts had been called in. You might recall the service was set up by government last year in partnership with My US, but was criticized by retailers who claimed it would deter the public from buying Bermuda. And more than 500 school children will get breakfast packages thanks to two organizations who have joined forces. Bermuda is Love and the Coalition for the Protection of Children spent several hours over the weekend preparing the meals at Bailey's Bay Cricket Club to ensure youngsters got a nutritious start to their day. Now, a spokesperson for Bermuda is Love said that breakfast boxes will include a box of cereal, a granola bar, fruit juice, and a fruit cup, which will be distributed at SAND schools. The spokesperson said that collaboration among organizations was the key to solutions to social problems and to ensure no child goes hungry. Taking a look at today's weather, we have a high near 70 and a low near 61 degrees. It is a cloudy and wet start to this Monday morning, and we will see a risk for thunder as a cold front passes over the island. Those skies soon brighten as the front exited south while remaining windy today. Now, thereafter, high pressure builds into our west with cooler yet mainly dry and settled weather through midweek, then warming later up in the weekend and throughout the week. Sorry. That's all for our daily hour news break brought to you by People's Pharmacy. Now let's head back to Jamal and Sherry in the studio for today's Daily Focus.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Lee. Sherry, I know you've got some. What day of the year is it? Give it to me. Give me something good. Give me something good.
It's National Common Courtesy Day.
Ooh.
For Jamal. It's a great way to remind ourselves that the world is better off when we show gratitude and graciousness in both big and small ways. So it only takes a small gesture to be a big hero, Jamal. Remember to say please and thank you on March 21st. It can make the world a difference. Now, I know in Bermuda, this is very common. So out here in the U.S., we got to, kind of groom people to say please and thank you a little bit more. Jamal caught that.
How to enter the room and stuff, or whatever. You know what I learned? Did you realize yesterday was the first day of spring?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, I didn't. Nobody dude. I didn't even know what date it is until Mondays, right? But happy spring to you all. Welcome, sunny spring.
Thank you.
You don't have allergies, do you?
No, thank goodness.
Okay.
I can. And Georgia is not the best place, especially if your car is covered in pollen and all of that kind of stuff.
I'm sorry to hear that, Sherry. I am. You're welcome. I heard your thank you earlier. Lee, we'll see you tomorrow.
I'll see you guys tomorrow.
All righty. Folks, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with Denton Williams. Do not go anywhere.
Let's face it, life can be a little wild, but shopping doesn't have to be. I choose People's, so that whether it's a prescription that needs to be filled, a toy for my little terror, or a gift for a new addition to the family, we'll see about that. Everything's available in one convenient location. Some call it People's, I call it my one-stop shop in the city. People's, we're here for you.
The history of everyday use of spices extends back thousands of years into antiquity. Since 1976, the Frontier Natural Foods Co-op has been bringing a wide range of exciting and authentic flavors to the table. A comprehensive range of ancient traditional herbs and spices produced organically and sustainably. The results are good news for the environment and more robust, fragrant essential oils in these natural seasonings. This month, we're featuring Frontier Natural Products, at least 95% organic salt-free lemon pepper. Lindo's. Why go anyplace else?
Mom's celebrating her 70th birthday next month. Have you noticed her age is catching up with her?
Yeah. Plus, she's having a hard time getting up and around like she's used to. I would sure hate to see her fall.
At Medical House Limited, we can help make life situations easier. We have electric beds, motorized scooters, bath stools, walkers, you name it.
Mom's been real good to us. We'll get her birthday and Christmas gifts from Medical House.
Medical House has relocated next to the Dendy Town Field, number 6 Bakery Lane, Pembroke. Telephone 292-3622.
All righty, welcome back to the big show. Sherry Vanderpool, I'm Jamal Hartman. It's the Daily Hour brought to you by Medical House, One Communications, Lindo's, and People's Pharmacy. Without further ado, let's bring in our guest for the day. We have Denton Williams. He's the Chief Executive of the Regulatory Authority. Good morning, sir, and welcome to the show.
Good morning, everyone. How are you doing today?
Good morning.
Sherry's doing very well since it's Common Courtesy Day. She even said good morning to you. Normally, she doesn't get that far with people, but she's got there. But thank you for doing this. Thank you for trusting our platform to have these kind of conversations. It's not your first time here, but despite that, there are still people who may not know what the Regulatory Authority is and what you do. But for those who don't know, just give us some background on the organization, its responsibilities and purpose.
Thanks, Jamal. And it's great to be back now. I hate to say it, but I'm a little bit of a veteran on the show now. But,
Absolutely.
So a quick introduction to the Regulatory Authority. We are a statutory body that was created by government to regulate certain critical industries. So we regulate electronic communications, such as cell phone, internet connections, any other type of electronic communications that you need, such as television services, etc. I was just say cable services. And we also regulate the electricity sector, which is very lively these days because of what's going on locally and overseas. And thirdly, we regulate international submarine cables that connect to Bermuda. So we regulate 3 sectors, and it's anticipated that we will regulate fuel going into the future at some point once the appropriate legislation has been passed, broadcast, and further we would take on potentially Earth stations, which is the connection between satellites and Bermuda. So we do that, and the other major thing we do is to focus on consumer protection and also consumer awareness, which is a big part of consumer protection. So that's why I'm here today.
And I was going to ask you, because I know that government had consumer affairs, and as I read, the more I read about you, I was like, are you replacing consumer affairs, or would it be? And that's another show. You don't have to answer that. I was just asking myself, but it looks like the authority is making moves to evolve for what's needed in this space in which you're responsible for. That said, the regular, you just mentioned that you oversee many things, including the electricity sector.
Yes, that's right.
Always have questions about electricity, but what are some updates that you'd like to share about it, and what exactly should people know? Like, there are some people who think that it's you they turn to about the pricing of electricity, for instance.
Sure. The pricing of electricity does emanate from the RE's final approved version of it. We have to look at the submissions from the regulated entity. So in electricity, that would be BELCO. And then we look at what the components of their what's called a rate case, where they submit their proposed rates. We look at the details of the items in there. We look at the cost inputs. We looked at their efficiency on how they do things. We look at what's what we deem to be a reasonable return that they would make on their investment, and the quality of service. And then finally, we look at the public's side of it, which is to make sure it's something that the public can bear. And to some extent, these things are good pull in opposite directions. So we have to find a balance between them, and we try very, very hard to do that. It's not always easy. No one cares whether it's easy or not. It's about I don't want to hear how you bake the bread. I just want the bread, right? So, so those are the things that we do, and we are in a period that, as everyone is aware, is highly inflationary. Everything is going up, whether it be labor, food, definitely fuel. But we also have a confluence of things, such as the amount of capital investment that we've made has to be paid for as well, right? So we've made a lot of investments as a country, particularly in the new power plant that BELCO has. So that was $110 million between that and the battery storage system that they have. Also, they have installed a lot of new cables, which, to the chagrin of the driving public, the disruption that has created. But that's all designed to make the system more robust, more reliable, and ironically more fuel efficient. But then the cost of the base fuel goes up. That kind of is to work against each other as well.
Wow. Well, speaking of fuel, gas, living out here in the U.S., we have noticed that those prices have risen recently. How is this likely to impact Bermudians and the cost of electricity?
Okay, so the cost of electricity is partially derived from the cost of the imported fuel we use, which is a heavy fuel oil. That fuel oil is very similar to crude oil. So the benchmark that's used to assess the commodity pricing is crude oil. So you can get a pretty good sense of what the first cost will be by looking at how fuel is being traded globally. So I think today, looking at futures, it looks like crude oil in New York is going to open at about $109 a barrel. And to give a sense of scale, earlier this year in January, it was at $70 a barrel. And on March 8th, it went over $130 a barrel. So it's very volatile right now. If you go back further, a full year, it was $60 a barrel. So we're seeing massive changes in oil prices. And then if you look at that, oil is the key input into production of gasoline. And there are some serious spikes there as well. And for gasoline, even though we don't regulate fuels right now in Bermuda for Bermuda, through RA, we do keep track of that. So what we see in fuel is that obviously gasoline as a product that is produced from the crude oil is heavily impacted. And the biggest impact in recent times has been the war in Ukraine. But there have also been policy decisions that have been made by primarily the US, but also others, that are increasing the cost of fuel. And those are decisions on whether to allow new exploration and extraction on federal lands in the US, the removal of pipelines. And I know that pipelines are a very sensitive subject, but on an economic basis, pipelines are the single most efficient way to move oil. So when we take pipelines off the table, then you wind up with it having to be transported by train, which is not very efficient. So those sort of things, all these little decisions add up, and they give you a baseline increase in the cost of the fuel. And then when you add a war on top of that, it doesn't help either. So we wind up in the place that we're in now.
Well, it just sounds like I need a new career. I don't know. But you were indicating about policies. What is the regulatory authority doing to create policies that allow for other methods of competing energy resources?
Oh, that's a fantastic question. So on the fuel side, we can only make recommendations. Like I just mentioned, we observe, so we can make recommendations to the government. We don't regulate fuel. But on the energy side, we do have a number of things. We are trying to encourage renewable energy development. We are fielding applications from people that wish to build large-scale solar power plants. We have strategically developed the integrated resource plan, and that plan allows for 85% renewables. And I know generally the feeling is that renewables may increase the total cost of electricity over time. But when you're in an inflationary, a fuel energy that environment that's highly inflationary like we have now, renewables are looking very attractive, right? So that's part of it. We do have a strategic view, and we are encouraging at the appropriate times the replacement of aging generation capacity. And we do encourage individuals to look and see what you can do in your own property, because you can help offset a lot of those costs by getting some solar on your own rooftop. There's lots and lots of developers out there, so feel free to call them up. I can't name any of them, because if I miss one, I'll get accused of being biased. But there are also things you can do. We can help ourselves by being more energy efficient. So buying an appliance, do pay attention to the Energy Star ratings. They do save you quite a bit over time. And there's some simpler things you can do in the meanwhile and conserve. So the difference between energy efficiency and conservation. Energy efficiency is the device itself. Is it efficient or not? Conservation is what you do. So in terms of conserving, you can put your water heaters on timers. I'm sure people have heard this. You keep hearing it because it's real. It does make a difference. But you don't have to have a timer if you're willing to just put in some effort in the interim until you get a timer. You can go to your breaker panel and switch off that water heater. You only need it on for about an hour before you get your shower or get your bath, and then turn it off afterwards. And you'll save yourself lots and lots of energy throughout the day.
That's good information. That is absolutely good information, because who literally knows, like, go turn off your water heater on the panel and it'll save you like some energy and money like that. But saying that, what are some tips? Is there somewhere on your website where people can go, let me go on the regulatory authority's website to look at some tips to save energy or become more efficient?
Yeah, sure. Right on our website, ra.bm, on the front page, you'll see a scrolling banner, and you should see something on about energy efficiency. I think we have like 10 tips to help you out. I do have some stuff that can help as well. Obviously, we have the classic, if you're going to dry your clothes, if you have the ability to and preference, just hang your clothes out. It will save you about 10 kilowatt hours of energy each day. That you're doing laundry, you can save that energy by just getting some free sunshine. Another one is to change to LED lights. Now, this is one that you have to be careful of. This is my view. You don't have to replace every light in your house. Just replace the lights that you use often. So those are the ones that use the most energy. Replace them with LED lights, and then the lights can help you reduce your bill. The other part of it is that if you have like a closet light that you're going to use for about, maybe 30 minutes total out of the day, don't put an LED light in there unless you really want to, but it's not going to pay for itself for a long time. So that's not the best investment, but the places where you go, like the kitchen and your living room, places you use a lot, your bedroom, those lights, those are the ones you want to target with your LED lights.
You know what got me thinking? You know how times evolve, people change, and I'm here thinking. I remember Nana. I know you all, so you don't act like this just me. You get in the shower too long and save some of that hot water, boy, and you ain't got water to waste. And that, what I'm thinking. Although Nana was a bit grumpy back then, she was teaching me about being efficient. Yeah. Now I think, and I'm being serious. Like I think now we are so privileged in some respects that we don't even consider efficiency, and it's so easy because so many of us grew up in that space where we were practicing efficiency. Got some questions. If you have any questions for Mr. Williams, I will try to do my best to get through as many as possible. Kelly KM Smith, she's asking, I want to know, how do you justify the fuel adjustment being just as much as the actual bill? I don't understand that. Sorry.
I can explain that. The reality is that the fuel input costs just as much as the infrastructure. So that's why you see it being such a big number. And the reality of it is if we can't allow them to recover that cost, they won't be able to buy the fuel. And I don't think anybody wants them to have rotating outages or brownouts or partial service or any of that. So we do pass on the full cost of the fuel because they have to continually go back to the market and buy. And it's a globally traded commodity. So there's nothing Belco can do to reduce the cost. You can probably reduce some of the volatility a little bit. And we've asked Belco for a price risk management program, which is, where you hedge, but that isn't free either. That comes at a cost. So we'll look at that and see if we want to go ahead and implement something like that. But we are not asking Belco to eat those costs, because those costs will bankrupt a utility. They will go out of business. So we have to pass the cost on. I do want to talk a little bit about changes in the tariffs as well.
Okay.
So we have basically two major parts of the electricity. One is the infrastructure and the other is the fuel. The infrastructure part is covered by the base rates, and obviously the fuel part is covered by the fuel adjustment. So in the base rates, what you see is the cost of the power plant and the cables and substations and all those items that go into the system. And the cost of operating it, employing the people, paying for their pensions, and all of the associated costs with the operations and maintenance and servicing of the equipment. So we have reviewed Belco's request, which to keep them going, and what we have seen was the submission that asked for a 16% increase. We went through it in a very granular way, and we thought we found a balance. It's still an increase. We don't think it's something that we should be shy about talking about, because we have to be honest with the public and tell the public what's going on. So the decision that the RA has come to at great pains, I would have to say, is a 7.5% increase. This reflects the deferral from last year. We had 2 years of rate decreases, particularly during the COVID period, where about $13 million was deferred out of that rate period, so that while a lot of people were unemployed and the economy really wasn't moving because people weren't traveling, the utility was asked, and they also volunteered, and we also agreed that we would defer that cost, but we have to make sure that we don't keep that deferral, postponing that deferral. So we have to repay it. So what we've done with that deferral is that we've spread it over 3 years. instead of that one intense period last year and the year before that. That would have led to an increase in those periods, but instead we had a decrease. So out of that 7.5% for the common period, which actually starts in April 1, that 7.5%, 4.5 of those percent are the deferral. So the net increase would have been 3% if we hadn't changed anything, but that's counterweighted with more strain on an economy that wasn't even moving last year. So if we move forward a little bit to 2023, because the rate review was for 2 years, 2023 is actually a 3% increase instead of the 7.5. And we're hopeful that after the third year we're through it, we'll start getting down to more reasonable numbers. We always wanted to be open and straightforward with the public about this. It's uncomfortable to hear this. We're not insensitive to the impact that it has on everyone, but we also have to keep in mind the overall goal is to keep the system going. We don't want the system to fail. So just a quick recap. The requested percent increase was 16%, and we allowed 7.5. So that's a savings of $28 million over those 2 years. And also the fuel, as you know, is increasing because of the the global things that we mentioned earlier in terms of fuel costs. And that's going to come out at about 18.9 cents, up from 15.57 cents. So the fuel adjustment is increasing because of the input supply prices, and the retail tariff, mostly from the deferral, has increased as well. So it's very unfortunate that these are happening, but we believe that we have to make these changes to make the system and ensure the system remains sustainable. And there's a valuable lesson in this, because I think a lot of years had gone by where Belco was not allowed to invest, and now they're having to invest very intensely, and the results of that is these sort of increases that we see. It's better for them to invest continuously at a modest rate rather than to be denied and then having to build out equipment in 1 or 2 years, which leads to rate shock, which is something we always try to avoid.
Boy, oh boy, I don't know. I don't know that they're not going to be too happy, but
no.
It's tough, and I think this is why it's important to, just using Rusty G's words, look within ourselves to see what we can do to ease the burden on ourselves. These tips are important, and Michelle White actually said on the back of what you said, put a timer on your water heater so that you don't have to remember to turn on and off, let it work for you, stuff like that. But I think, instead of us looking at, and I'm just trying to put a positive spin on this, folks, because sometimes reality hurts. It does, right? And there's nothing we can do about it outside of, react in a manner that's not going to stress us more. We can't do anything about the price increasing, but we can do something about our usage. And I think that's what, we should take away from this entire conversation, not throw rotten tomatoes at anyone, but literally just say, all right, this is what it is. This is what I'm going to do more. If that means driving less, using less electricity, cooking less and eating more raw foods, which we probably should be doing, there's lessons. So I think, I'm thankful that you trust our platform to have this conversation. One last question before you go. Samcat Play says, how can Belco be allowed to record high profits but scream they have no money and we are paying heavily? I think you kind of just explained it, because they're making this investment that for so long they weren't allowed to make. But if you want to add anything else to that, feel free.
Yeah, the only thing I can add is I don't control what they say or how they scream or anything like that. That's up to them. But, we also have to look at what's fair. If we want people to invest in Bermuda's future infrastructure, et cetera, then we have to be a place that allows not only international investors, but local investors to get a reasonable return. In mature markets, one of the safest places and most reliable places to invest in is infrastructure, because infrastructure generally is consistent in the way it returns payments to investors. And then that encourages people to make money available for other investments. What you don't want to wind up being is an economy that is unattractive to investment, because the results of that would be deleterious and would definitely put us into a tailspin. So we're trying to stay away from that. That's a dangerous space to be. But how they view it, we can't control that. All we're trying to do is balance these countervailing forces between, what they would optimally like to receive, and what we think is reasonable for the public to pay. And in some cases, no one's happy about that. I'll tell you, I'm not happy about it, but I am willing to come here and talk to you about it and answer your questions.
All righty. Denton Williams from the Regulatory Authority. Crazy, because I don't arrange the guest folks, but we do have Belko coming later on this week. Interesting timing. But
Yes.
thank you so much for this conversation. And we'll probably be having this conversation discussion-wise with the audience to figure out what they believe that we all can do to reduce our own energy costs. So thank you. And we look forward to having you back. There's other things to discuss. There are people in the audience asking about cable TV and IPTV. What's IP? IP address kind of stuff?
Yeah, that's internet-based TV. Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry, folks. I'm not as hip as you think. All right. So we'll definitely have to have you back to talk about some other things, but appreciate you sharing this information. And until next time, stay well.
Bye.
Hey, thanks. Bye. Thank you for having me.
No problem. Important information there, folks. They asked for 16%. The regulatory agreed to, I believe, 7.5%. Then the costs are going up. And not to be the bearer of bad news, but the costs are going to go up. And yeah. I don't know what to say to comfort you. I love you all. I can say that. I
gotta
do.
start recycling.
Yeah, but there are things that we can do, and we're going to talk about that probably tomorrow morning discussion. Like, what can we do to reduce our own energy costs? We're going to take a quick break. If you appreciated that conversation with Mr. Williams, you know what to do. Give us a thumbs up, a love, a like. Make sure you share this, because we don't want people just getting their bill and looking at it and being upset when this information is being made public. Not only is it being made public, but this is the platform where you can have questions and engage with Mr. Williams and learn more about why this is taking place. All right. So give us a thumbs up, a love, a like. Make sure you share it. We're going to take a break and we'll be back with the Daily Play, folks. Daily Play time coming up.
A lot happens around your home. That is why at One Communications, we have introduced affordable security and video monitoring, because everyone should be able to afford to protect their family. Anytime, from anywhere, One Home Security keeps you connected and puts security in your hands with an easy-to-use smartphone app to control everything. Home security is important to keep you and your family safe. Motion-activated cameras around your home and security monitoring within create a complete security system providing protection both inside and outside your home. Professional monitoring means that there's someone on call with 24/7 protection to notify the authorities and help keep you and your loved ones safe. We are dedicated to whole home protection with indoor and outdoor cameras, smart door locks, motion sensors, and more, so you'll always be connected to what matters most. With professional installation, no upfront hardware fees, and low monthly rates, because keeping your family safe should be affordable for everyone. Total home video monitoring and security, there's no better way to protect your home than with One Home Security.
Alrighty. Well, yeah. Welcome back to the big show. She's Sherry Vanderpool. I'm Jamal Hartman. Thanks again to One Communications, People's Pharmacy, Medical House, and Lindo's for ensuring we're able to do this for you. Again, thanks to Denton Williams and the Regulatory Authority. And folks, again, if you appreciated that convo, give us a thumbs up, a love, a like. What you laughing at, Sherry?
We're running out of time, Jamal. So let's just.
Oh, that's what we're doing. Okay, it's time for the Daily Play, brought to you by Heineken 0.0. Great taste, no alcohol. Sherry, are you ready?
Yes, come on.
All right, she's ready, folks. Here we go. Who said it? Quote, darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. End quote.
Male or female?
You ain't getting a hint like that.
I I give you hints all the time. Martin Luther King.
Well, that's Dr. Martin Luther King in your mouth, but yeah, it's Dr. King. Dr. King. Yeah, it's Dr. King.
You see how I was like, bam,
Yeah.
Martin Luther King, bam, MLK, bam.
Yeah, that's what I told Rashida. Dr. Martin Luther King.
Guys, give me something. Jesus.
Any final thoughts on today's show?
As far as the discussion about transgender persons in sports, I think the solution is obvious. Give them their own category. I think that would be more proficient for everybody in hand. And as far as Denton Williams, I just appreciate the education. I didn't know some of this information, so I can just appreciate the education, and I love his tips.
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement with transgender. I don't think it's going the way that equates to fairness. And I think we need to relook at it. What does it look like to create a more fair environment for all? I'm not quite sure, but I think we're on the right track when we say maybe different categories. I appreciate the regulatory authority for trusting our platform to have these conversations. The end result is probably not what any of us want. But as I always say, like, you know, I understand the privilege, right? And I'll say it this much. To own a car and to have a license to drive a car is a privilege. Yes, gas prices are high. Yes, we need to make adjustments to ensure that we can afford to drive that car. Me complaining and getting angry and stressing out over the price of gas isn't going to make it go down. I've had to learn that myself. So we have to make adjustments. Crazy thing is, you know, I remember thinking my aunt was grumpy because she had a dryer and she never wanted to dry her clothes unless it was raining outside. And simple things like going back to putting your clothes on a clothing line.
Yeah.
What is it, too ghetto? I grew up like that. We'd still do that. You know that? What is it, ghetto to some people to do that? Or does it make more sense? Those are the things we need to consider as we continue to evolve and face challenging times. Sometimes life comes full circle and we need to go back to what worked. It's nothing wrong with going back if it worked and still can work today. Sherry, you've got some daily inspiration for us?
I do. Obstacles don't have to stop you. If you run into a wall, don't turn around and give up. Figure out how to climb it and go through it or work around it. And that's from Michael Jordan.
All right, go ahead, Uncle Mike. Be like Mike. I remember those commercials. Folks, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and also our thedailyhour.com, our website. Thanks again to our partners, Medical House, One Communications, Lindo's, and People's Pharmacy for ensuring that we're able to do this for you on a daily basis. As always, we appreciate you, we love you, and we thank you for making us part of your daily routine. If all goes well, we'll be back to do this again with you tomorrow. She's Sherry Vanderpool. I'm Jamel Hartman. My friends, please do make it a safe and great day. Peace.